On a recent visit to Italy, one of our favorite places, I had probably what has got to be one of the top 2 soups I've ever had in my entire life. I had no idea what I was ordering except that I knew the first word, gamberetti, meant shrimp, and so I'm always in for shrimp. In this case, it was a soup called gamberetti, fagioli bianchi e pomodori, or shrimp, white beans, and tomato soup. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. If this is your first time tuning in, let us know you're out there by giving us a big thumbs up below, and then hit that subscribe button to make sure you never miss a video. Now, let's start cooking. So I call this recipe prawns, cannellini beans, and tomato soup, or in Texans, shrimp, white beans, and tomato soup. It's really a very simple recipe, but it's extremely tasty, and it combines 3 amazing flavors. That is shrimp, white beans that have been cooked to perfection, and tomatoes. So let's take a look at our ingredients. So the base for this soup is actually going to be a shrimp stock that we're going to make, and it's just a very simple shrimp stock, but it actually starts with our shrimp. So what we've done is we have actually shelled and deheaded our shrimp, the ones that are going to be as part of the soup, and we've reserved 3 larger shrimp that are going to be used for plating. It's going to be really for decoration. But what we've done with the shells, and by the way, on the 3 larger shrimp, what we've done is we've left the heads on and we've left the tails on, and we've taken the shell from the middle part of the body. And what we're going to do with those is we have seasoned them. You can lightly season them just with salt and some white pepper. I like mine a little spicier, so I've put a little bit of more of my spicy shrimp seasoning on them. But those have been seasoned, and we're just going to set those in the refrigerator until it's time to use those, and that's going to be at the very last minute. And now the rest of our ingredients are this dish is really basically shrimp stock and beans and tomato soup that we're going to add some shrimp to at the very end. So to make our stock, we're going to use, like I said, we've got the shells here, and those are just empty shells. We're going to use those. And then we've got some aromatics that we'll use for those shells. A little bit of onion, some celery, some garlic, a little bit of saffron for color, and some tomato paste, some concentrate, some tomato concentrate, the good stuff from the tube. And that will be used to make our shrimp stock. And then we will flavor that with some herbs, and we've got basically a Bouquet Garni that contains 1 bay leaf, and yep, a bay leaf, got a couple of sprigs of parsley, and a sprig of thyme. Very simple seasoning for that. And then once we start our shrimp stock, we will deglaze that shrimp stock with a little bit of cognac. You don't have to use cognac if you don't want. It definitely deepens the flavor. But you could use, some white wine. You could use some vermouth, whatever you want, just to deglaze the pan, and it really brings out the flavor in those shrimp shells. Then we've got some cannellini beans. And these are beans that I have made from scratch. You can certainly use canned beans. I haven't done a video as of yet, but I will do a video of how I make my beans from scratch because they are absolutely delicious. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of canned tomatoes. And in this case, I've left the juice in there, and I've got chopped tomatoes here. You could use whole tomatoes and just use your potato smasher to chop those up, what have you. But that's going to be our tomato flavor. And I know this looks a little bit funny, but this is just water. I've rinsed the can from the tomato sauce or the tomatoes, and I've poured that in this bottle, and it's just water that's been used to rinse out the tomato can, but I just hate throwing away that flavor. So those are going to be our ingredients. Let's get started. To get started with our recipe, we are first going to make our shrimp stock. And I'm just putting a very little amount of grapeseed oil in my pan. And we're just going to heat that oil up. And for this one, I'm using a Dutch oven or cocotte. And once this oil heats up, starts smoking a little bit, then we're going to tip in our shrimp shells. And you know, there's several different ways to make a shrimp stock. We're making a very quick and simple shrimp stock, but ours is just going to be made by, and it's similar to making a fish stock. You heat your oil up, then you put your basically your protein in there, cook it until it turns, in this case shrimp, we want them to turn nice and pink. Then we're going to add some aromatics with our onions and garlic and our celery. And then we'll deglaze the pan, and then we'll add our water to create that stock. As you can see, our pan is smoking a little bit, and we really want that because we don't want to steam these shells. We want to cook them right away when we first put them in. So we want to get that oil quite hot. So in go our shells. And you can see they immediately start turning pink. This is what we want. Oh, very good. And I'm just gonna crush them a little bit, just to coax any flavor out of them that we might have. If you had heads, this would really come in handy to use your something to mash on these with. But in this case, it's fine. It's just shells. All right. So I'm just going to tip in just a little bit of butter, and I'm probably only using about a half a tablespoon of butter. And into the pan, I'm going to add my onions, my celery, and we're just going to cook those until they're starting to go a little bit soft. And wow, the aroma already is absolutely amazing. Now I'm making a smaller quantity than what you might see in the recipe, which by the way is listed in the description below the video. And to find that if you're on an iPad or a tablet, just look to the right of the title, and you'll see a little arrow, and you just click that arrow, and it will open up the description section. Or if you're on the laptop, just go down below the title where it says "See More," and you should be able to find the description there. Okay. Wow. So yes, we're just trying to cook these until the vegetables have gotten a little bit soft. And I just like to keep them moving around. And now I'm gonna tip the garlic in. And again, these vegetables will all be strained out, and so there's no reason to worry about chopping them up really finely or anything like that. So we'll just continue to stir these until everything is soft, and we'll go to our next step. Okay, once our vegetables are nice and soft, now we're just going to add our tomato paste, and I'm putting in probably a tablespoon for the amount that I'm doing, but again, you've got the amounts written below. Just stick with that. And tomato paste, when you put it into a mix like this, it's similar to like making a roux with flour. That is that you need to actually cook the rawness out of that. So you do want to cook that around for a little bit. And wow, you can just really smell the flavor. All right, once you've cooked your tomato paste for a little bit, now it's time to go ahead and deglaze the pan with your cognac. And I'm gonna pull the pan away from the fire a little bit, just like that. And And then I'm just going to light that with my torch. And we will let that cook around, and it's just going to basically cook the alcohol off, but leave all of that really depthness, that really depth of flavor. So that cognac has done its job. That's all we needed. And we probably could have added a little bit more, because usually what you want to do is you want to cook the cognac a little bit to flavor your mixture and then reduce it. So I'm going to add just a little bit more in there. And we'll allow that to create a little bit more flavor. We don't need to relight it. Very nice. Now what I'm going to do is just add the water that we had to cover this mixture. In this case, it's about 500 grams, and 500 milliliters, which is about two and a half cups, maybe, something like that. And we're now going to bring this to a boil. And then we'll add our saffron and our herbs. Okay, we have come to the boil here. And by the way, just in case you were wondering, our cannelloni beans that we had, our cannellini beans, we've actually just put those in a separate saucepan, and we've set those off to the side because those will get heated up and added at the very last minute. So now that this has come to the boil, we can now add our saffron. And let's just stir that around a little bit. And again, we're going to be straining this out. So our Bouquet Garni will go in, and we'll just add those just loose leaves. Okay, so we'll let this cook and simmer. If it starts to boil, we'll turn it down because we really want it to simmer, a fairly vigorous simmer, for about 30 minutes. And once this finishes simmering for about 30 minutes, it will be a wonderful stock. It actually only really probably needs about 15 or 20 minutes. It's going to be a wonderfully flavorful stock. And then we'll go to our next step. Our stock has been going now for about 20 minutes, and it's really intensified in flavor, and the color is deepened a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and strain out the solids, and then we'll put it back over the fire for probably about 5 minutes and let it reduce a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and strain it. All of our solids from our shrimp stock are being strained, and now I'm just going to use my ladle to push all that, look at all that goodness, to push all that goodness through. That is just nothing but pure flavor. Okay. So now we will put our stock back in, and we'll bring that up. We don't want to do a vigorous boil, but we're going to bring it up and let it reduce for about 5 minutes.
Hey everybody, it's Walter from Artistic Gourmet Adventures. My wife Kim and I own this unique small group tour company where we host groups of 6 to 12 guests for 1 week luxury adventures in beautiful locations throughout Europe and the United States. I have the privilege of being the adventure chef, creating and preparing daily gourmet meals for our guests. So, in this video series, from our cozy home kitchen here in the beautiful Loire Valley of France, we will demonstrate a wide variety of recipes, from culinary classics to originals, as well as covering professional kitchen techniques for the home chef. For more information on Artistic Gourmet Adventures, check our website, linked in the description below.
Our stock has been reducing for about 5 minutes now, and just want to make sure that you don't skip that step, because this is the step where the flavor really gets intensified with the stock. So make sure you go ahead and do this step because it's a very important one. And now we're just going to add our tomatoes into the stock. And again, these are, you can use whole tomatoes that you crush up and keep the sauce in them as well. And now we're going to bring this to the boil, and then we're going to simmer it for about 30 minutes, or with a large portion you would be simmering this for about 30 minutes. In our case today, we've got a smaller portion. It'll probably be about 15 minutes. Oh, wow. Okay, our soup is finished combining the tomatoes and the shrimp stock. Let's just give it a taste for seasoning. Oh, it is absolutely luscious. It's a perfect combination of that deep shrimp flavor combined with the tomatoes, the acid from the tomatoes. And I haven't even really seasoned it yet. So I'm just going to season it a little bit with a little bit of salt, and then we'll put our shrimps in and let those cook. And now just a word here about the shrimp that you use for this. When you make this, and if you think you're going to have some left over, what I usually do is, if I'm making a small amount, I'll just use the amount of shrimp that I'm going to use for that particular meal. But if you go ahead and make a larger amount and you have some left over with the shrimp, what I would suggest is, if you put this in the refrigerator, it is to separate the shrimp and put those in a separate container. And when you get ready to reheat it, just reheat the soup. And then once the soup is hot, then put your shrimp back in at the very last moment, because you don't want to overcook your shrimp. There's nothing like overcooked shrimp. So we're going to add our shrimp now. And you can see I've got my beans here heated up and they are ready to go. So we're just going to add our shrimp to this. And it will just be a matter of a few minutes for them to cook. And I'm actually just going to put what I will need for this serving. And we'll get those, as soon as those shrimp turn, pink or white, whatever, depending on the type of shrimp that you have, then we will be ready to serve this up. So our shrimp are cooked. I'm just going to set them in a little bowl to the side for us to do our service. Our soup is ready, and let's get it plated up. So just to give you an idea of how I would plate this, is I would spoon some of the beans in the bowl, in the bottom of the bowl. And then we'll add our soup over the top, just like that. Oh, wonderful. Look at the beautiful color. Okay. And now we'll just finish this with our shrimps. Just like that. And one more just for good measure. And then our crowning glory is a nice big single shrimp, just like that. And let's just top it with a little bit of parsley. In the very center. And there we have it. Our shrimp, white beans, and tomato soup. It is time to give this a taste. Now, I probably put just a little sprinkling of salt in this just before we served it. But just look how beautiful it is. The shrimp are perfectly cooked. That combination of tomatoes and shrimp stock and the white beans. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna try the soup first. The flavor is just, it's just a combination of such good flavors. And I'll tell you, I'm going to put the recipe for the beans in the description below along with the soup, because like I said, you could certainly use a canned bean for this, but I am telling you what, you will not find white beans in a can that tastes like this, and it really makes a huge difference. So now let's just give the shrimp a try. And now we've paired this with a white wine, and this is a Vernaccia. And Vernaccia and Vermentino are two of the main white grapes from the Tuscany region of Italy, and it's very, very clean tasting. It's not quite as dry and astringent as a Pinot Grigio, but something like this, or even a Chardonnay, a Sonoma Chardonnay, an unoaked Chardonnay, is a really good pairing with this dish. So let's try our shrimp as well. I promise you, this is a match made in heaven. You have got to give this a try. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, give us a thumbs up below and hit that subscribe button. It's free. And ring the bell if you want to be notified as soon as we release a new video. Also, let us know in the comments if you have any special recipe requests. We really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.